Alright, welcome back. If you're a classroom student of mine, up to this point you've been drawing with pen because it forces you to slow down and really see the details of the things you're drawing. Also, if you have mistakes, you get to see them and you're forced to deal with them and correct them. By the time you get to pencil, you're going to be quite a skillful drawing student. So today I want to talk a little bit about pencils, graphite pencils of all kinds. All the instructions I give, the principles should apply to regular wood pencils. If you want to use mechanical pencils, you're welcome to. But make sure if you have a wood pencil, you have one of these handy. And everybody needs one of these handy, an eraser. And then some people really like to draw with tortillons. They're just blending stumps made of paper to give you a true tone and a gradual gradation of value as you make your drawing. So I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to get busy on some drawing with pencils. Whenever you use wood pencils, use a hand sharpener. That's going to save you all kinds of money, as opposed to a mechanical one with a crank handle that'll grind your really expensive pencils down super fast. So you can also get a nice point with a hand sharpener. So we're going to take a look at a couple different kinds of pencils or gradations. Here we have a 4H, and it's the hardest one we're showing today. It's got more clay than graphite. Here's a 6B, it's got more graphite, so it's going to be softer. And here's an HB, or number 2 pencil, which you're probably familiar with. It's right in the middle. And what you need to do is figure out how that affects your drawing as you make progress. So just take them out and experiment with them. I like to start with an HB or a number 2 because everybody's familiar with that. It can give you a pretty dark value right away. Here's the 4H. It's going to give you a much lighter value. Don't press very hard and it'll do that. And here's a 6B. It'll give you a much darker value very easily. Be careful with the 4H. It can actually dent your paper. So there's the 3 pencils that we're working with. There's a much bigger range, but that's what we'll start with. Next thing we're going to do is draw some ovals and hatch some eggs from those ovals. So you need a light source. We're going to pick the top left. That's where the highlights will be. That's where the light hits the object the most directly. We're just going to do the first one with a 4H. So we're going to leave that top left part as a highlight, and then we'll put some darker shadows in, and then we'll put a shadow down on the table. That's called a cast shadow. Then we'll use the number 2 pencil or the HB pencil. Do the same thing, try and get different values. Lights and darks will show off the object being round or how the light hits it. And another one on the table, another shadow. Try and follow the form as you make your marks, and that will reinforce the three-dimensional qualities that it has. That's a technique that you're already familiar with from pen called hatching. So you could see it looks a little bit messy, but here's our different kinds of highlights and shadows that you need to know. One's a highlight, most direct light, core shadow, where the shadow is the darkest, a cast shadow, which is cast onto the table, and reflected light that bounces from the table back onto your object in this case. So get a real egg out and study it. And then finally do one with all 3 pencils. So here's the 4H, curving those lines to really show off the form. I'm going to get the HB next and reinforce my shadows and get my core shadow a little bit darker, just using hatching still. And then my 6B, it's really going to exaggerate some of those shadows. I'm going to leave some light bouncing off the bottom, so I'm not going to darken that at all. Then I'll put a cast shadow down with my 6B really dark. And I thought it was a little bit too dark, so I grabbed my eraser and I pulled out some highlights. Have some fun.